grew up with my parents working in a different country. So I grew up in a home with just nannies, and I would see my mom once a month or once every other month. They were very much disconnected from my life. So spiritual authority was not safe for me. My primary authority figures, my parents, who loved me so much and provided in every possible way financially, but was just not present. I think I grew up with just a lack of leadership. That in turn caused me to really not trust leaders and not trust people. And without that safety, I was in my early 20s in college, and I fell into depression where I could not get out of bed, barely left the house. I took a leave of absence for a semester, and my parents didn't know. Nobody knew. Along with the depression, I also began eating incessantly. It really became something of a true addiction. I needed that next fix. I needed the food coma or something, because the static in my brain was so out of control, and I needed something to silence it. And I turned to food, and the more I did that, it really became this addictive cycle. And there were times, more than one or two times, when I found myself digging through yesterday's trash looking for food, just to have something to eat, something to stuff down whatever that I can't control, the chaos on the inside. And all this time I was going to church. All this time I was going to Bible study. This was, I was 20, and being part of a church community, I needed more than just a good Bible study. I needed to know how to access the presence of God. I remember sitting through the sermon unmoved, listening to the worship unmoved. I was kind of just like a lump of flesh sitting at church. And we had communion that Sunday, and I lined up to go receive communion. And when I got to the front and my pastor handed me the cup of juice, I said to him, "Pastor Dave, I am so beeping depressed right now." And he just had that steady smile and said, "This is the blood of Jesus shed for you. It can wash away all your depression." I took the cup and I took the piece of cracker and I went back to my seat, and I just prayed like a silent prayer that came out as a sigh. Basic, simple, the blood of Jesus saves and heals. And I prayed that before I took communion. And when I did, immediately the heaviness lifted. It felt like I could see colors. I remember seeing with new eyes in a moment, the vividness around me, the lightness that I felt. I was able to notice people around me and familiar faces and friends. And that was my first introduction to the power of the blood of Jesus, not just being a concept or in theory or a song that we sing. It was real. And that began this journey of me wanting to access that kind of presence, the real presence of God. When I learned how to commune in prayer, everything that I read in the Bible, rather for it to just be good theology sitting in my head, I learned how to really take every thought captive and go against, the enemy's lies in my life. And the depression just dissolved. The chaos and the static inside was stilled, and I didn't need to go to food. I barely remember what depression feels like.